Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Empowered with Gina podcast. So today we're going to talk about something and to someone who is in one of the spaces that I absolutely love, skincare, health, wellness space. My dear friend, Ted Vuong, the founder and CEO of Regenix Med Spa in Beverly Hills. Ted, welcome, my friend.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Gosh, this is exciting.
So exciting. We've been talking about doing this for a while. And just recently, we've leaned into really looking at the skincare space and everything. So I thought, before we talk about skincare, I want to have my dear friend, Ted, who I've known for over 10 years now, when we were little babies.
I know.
Just a few years ago. I want the world to know you, and I want the world to know your journey because, yes, there's the founder, CEO, med spa conversation. But then there's Ted and his journey. And part of the podcast, well, a big part of my podcast is to share and showcase people's journeys to give motivation and inspiration to other people who, might not be in the med space or med spa space, but something about your journey triggers them or makes them feel seen or motivates them. So 3 adjectives to describe yourself. Go.
Determined, compassionate, and relentless.
Yes. And handsome.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, where did we grow up?
So I grew up in a variety of places. So, as a child of Vietnamese refugees, we spent a good part of my early childhood in the San Gabriel Valley. And it was only until middle school did my mom bring me over to live in the city of San Marino. Mm-hmm. So that was a culture shock in itself. But I mean, I definitely did appreciate it.
Why was it a culture shock? Because people who don't know the area, explain why that was a
So growing up, I originally started off going to school in El Monte, California. And I remember having to walk down Peck Road, and passing by maybe 13 blocks with my grandma morning and afternoon to go home. Payne Elementary School. We passed by that beautiful, gorgeous Food for Less every day. And, it was been a great 5 years of my life during elementary. And it was only up until about middle school time, then my mom was able to, seek success in her businesses and said, hey, come live with me now. And, and that was in the city of San Marino. So it was different because in San Marino, I mean, albeit coming from El Monte to San Marino, they'll make you know that you're new. They'll make you know and that you feel like you're an outsider.
How old were you?
Oh my gosh, I think it was 9. I would think it's 9 or 10.
Which is an impressionable age.
Super.
So you're building your socialization skills. You're trying to make friends. And at 9, you get moved from El Monte or San Gabriel area, which for people who don't know is, a socioeconomically middle to lower income community.
Yeah.
San Marino, on the other hand, is the opposite of that. Very high end, high net worth individuals and homes, and it's night and day.
Yeah.
So you, and we could talk about, your mom's businesses after. Your mom was able to make the decision to move you. And so 9 years old, you're in San Marino School District.
Yep.
As an outsider, being made to feel like an outsider.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how did you get through that? What did you do?
I learned a lot of self-comforting measures, and I learned about resilience, and I learned about, how to comfort myself during my long walks home, right? At that time, my mom was always working. So I went to this, greater school, but I would actually have to, walk myself to school, walk myself home, make sure I finish my own homework and that I didn't get in trouble. At that time, we were latchkey kids, so we had the key to go home, but just took care of ourselves. Back in the day, we were still relying on Net Zero for that free internet for 14 days before it gets canceled, right? And you have that banner on there, or you're going to wait for that free 7-day trial from AOL, and then hopefully you get another CD in a week. You could try it again. Yeah, that was my life. And it was exciting. And I wouldn't change any part of it because it taught me how to be there for myself. And it taught me to appreciate the finer things in life and to be just so driven. Feeling like an underdog doesn't go away, but you get to reap the rewards when you win. And you're like, hey, I did this and I'm going to win.
So you're going through school, you
Yeah.
go through high school. What kind of student were you?
I wasn't the best student, to be honest with you. I think there was a point where my mom, San Marino, started to disclose the ranking of each student. So if your cohort had 250 students and you got a number of 182,
Ooh.
you knew you were number 182. So the person sitting next to you, maybe number 8, 9, 11. I mean, everyone was really, awesome and cool, but I felt like academically, I just didn't really get it all, really, until my life changed maybe during my sophomore and senior year, where my mom was saying, okay, let's try out different high schools and see how you rank. And so I did. I went to St. Gabriel High. I went to Walnut High. I went to Webb Boarding School, preparatory
What?
school. I went to all of that
Why?
because there was a time when my mom married a movie star, and my mom was saying, "Hey, hun, mom loves you, but let's try out this home in Walnut, and let's try out this school. I think you'll do better academically." Went there, was left alone, like this nice, beautiful, gorgeous home loaded with cars in the garage. I'm 13, 14 by myself all the time, and I remember driving the car around 14 years old, trying to get my own apples at the supermarket and buy my own food, and trying to go to Washington Mutual to cash a check without an ID was shocking. But
How interesting.
Yeah.
So this is so interesting because you usually hear the struggle story of kids coming from socioeconomically depressed, like very sparse upbringing. You had a nice home. You had
Yeah.
multiple cars. You grew up wealthy, but emotionally you were isolated and alone.
yeah, I felt like we were emotionally poor in that sense.
Interesting,
Yeah,
which
that's
it
how-
sounds like a little
Yeah,
bit.
definitely. And I think looking back at it now, I mean, it did teach me a lot about life though, right? And it taught me about character evaluation, and it taught me about, really it's important who you surround yourself with, right? And so that was, that was around the time when I met my best friend John. And so that was when I met him. He was 4 years older and I was this 13, 14-year-old kid, and he just kind of took me under his wing and made sure that I was always walking along a safe path.
Okay.
And yeah, and it was inspiring. And shortly thereafter, after a semester, my mom said, "Okay, you are not doing better here in Walnut. Just go back to San Marino." And
Oh
all
my
right,
gosh.
and that was that. And you know
So
what?
disruptive though.
Yeah, and the rest is history. I honestly felt like I wasn't gonna make it in life because my high school transcript had like 6 transcripts. Like everyone's so confused when it comes to college. They're like, all right, and especially
course.
grad school. Everyone's like, hey, you have 7 different high school transcripts. Like, what's wrong?
Wow. That is
Yeah.
really disruptive, and even
Yeah.
socially.
Yeah.
Because as a high schooler, you are learning socialization still very much. And
Yeah.
you didn't have the time to form, I would think, meaningful friendships other than John, of course.
Yeah. So I felt like I learned to make friends quick.
Yeah.
I learned to make friends quick, and in a short amount of time, learn habits and
that.
habits and language and body language to make people feel vulnerable and just more at ease. Yeah,
That's right.
Absolutely.
So you went to college?
Yeah.
Where?
Mhm. So I went to college also in a variety of places. Initially, I went to UCLA, and then I figured out that, all right, well, it's super costly and we couldn't afford much. And, I was working full time, 2 different jobs at a time, trying to sustain. And I'll never forget what it was like getting locked out of my dorm because I just couldn't afford it too. It didn't matter how many hours I was picking up everywhere. It was just beyond. And, having to go back to live with grandma. And then I went to Mount Sac Community College until I achieved all my GEs, and then I transferred out. Yeah, I transferred out to Cal State LA. And then at that point, that's when I was like, all right, I was driven. I mean, to be honest with you, my college transcript is immaculate. I have never gotten anything less than an A.
Really?
Yeah, in everything. And I was like working full time, if not 2 full-time jobs. And for those of you out there who ever thinks that just because you did bad in high school, that would define your future, no way, no way, shape, or no way. You can always rewrite your future.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. And then, so what happened that was mom no longer supporting you, or what happened so that there was such a switch?
The recession hit recession hit and my family was impacted deeply. So
you went high and then
I got to see my brother live the highlights of the up and ups of the 90s, right? So my brother ended up getting, he got in high school, get the brand new Mercedes delivered, got the college apartment, got the credit cards, got it all. When it was my turn, I remember at 14 picking up the yellow pages, calling Chinese seafood restaurants in Monterey Park, introducing myself, asking if they were looking for any help.
Really?
Yeah. I used to work
that.
under the table at a Chinese seafood restaurant at 14 just to make the $3.75 an hour, right? And so, yeah.
So then tell me, after college, you're driven now.
Yeah. So after college, my final year of college, I actually stacked on maybe three additional classes every quarter to hit all my prerequisites. And so, because I knew I was going to go to grad school. And so I was like, wait, but I need to be financially savvy. Financial aid will assist me during my, your undergrad.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to add on extra classes during my undergrad. So it's still covered. Hey, it worked. It worked out great. I mean, who wants to take 7 classes? But if it's covered, I'll do it.
Listen, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And you found it.
It worked out well.
And then, so kind of going to skip over some stuff. How did you get into nursing?
It all started as a volunteer in the hospital after being, after working at Obagi Dermatology in the day, and I would volunteer at the hospital at night. And I was volunteering at the hospital because I watched a TV show called Grey's Anatomy. I thought it looked so fun. I want to be there. I volunteered because maybe I can go in healthcare. It's the Asian way. And so I went there and I started volunteering, giving away apple juices and blankets. And I just knew how much I loved the elderly because of my grandma. I have an affinity for the elderly, and anyone who knows me and my past in emergency medicine knows I am an iron fist for the elderly and geriatrics. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
What an advocate.
Yeah, so it was great. And so it was after my second night of volunteering, it was 9 p.m. The chief nursing officer went to the ER to translate, and she asked the nurse, "Why am I translating?" And then the nurse said, "No one else speaks Chinese." But she looked at me and she said, "But young man, do you speak Chinese?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, I speak 5 languages."
Oh my gosh.
And she said, "Really?" And I proved it. And then she said, "Why don't you work here?" And I said, "But I'm only 18. You don't need somebody 18 here." She's like, "Why don't you come back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., meet me in the nursing's office, and we'll figure something out." And it was already 9 p.m. And I thought, how is this going to happen? I told her I don't have scrubs. She's like, "That's okay. Dress up tomorrow and we'll figure something out."
I love this.
And that, until this day, she's still my mentor. She's the very first chief nursing officer who has inspired me,
Believed and saw something in you and believed in you.
Yeah, I mean, she opened the door for me. Like within, all it takes is one person.
I know it.
All it takes is one person to extend an olive branch or to just say good words behind closed doors.
That's right.
To get you through. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. She changed my life.
So then I'm going to kind of fast forward to how you and I met. I was working with my dad, who was an orthopedic surgeon at the time, at Monterey Park Hospital, and you were in the ER.
Yeah.
You were a nurse in the ER.
Yeah,
And we met in the doctor's lounge over lunch.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly you being this bright light every time, even to this day, you are this bright light of energy and like love that comes at you, right?
You're sweet.
And it's intentional and it's sincere and it's wonderful. So in all these years that we've known each other, you've always had that. And working in an ER, which is, you can imagine the stuff that comes through those doors, maintaining the positivity, maintaining the hours that you have to maintain. And how was working as an ER nurse?
Yeah,
Being in the job.
That was my very first full-time job. And when I started there as a nurse practitioner, they said to me, "You're going to start this fast track program, Ted, which means you're going to be the face of it. You're going to start taking you're going to be here full time and you'll be taking all these cases." One of the best stories I have is that on my 3rd shift, I called your father regarding an ankle fracture. And then I was telling him well, I think this patient would benefit from being admitted, right? And he said to me, "Oh, well, tell me more then." And I did. And you know what? He said "Oh, I like how descriptive you are." He's like, "Are you still there?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to stop by a little bit later and I'll stop by and I'll stop by and take a look." Man, it was a great conversation.
Great guy.
Yeah. And that was such a beautiful friendship with your father. He's so great.
Thank you. Yeah.
He inspired me. And he said, he commended the descriptives of how it was giving report and, the formality. And, he said, well done. Well
That's
done.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad you got to know my dad. He loved you and he thought you were just amazing.
God, your dad's awesome.
So skipping past all that, you decided after working in the ER setting as a nurse practitioner for 10 plus years,
Yep.
you decide, I'm pivoting and I'm going to start my own business.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah, that's right. I remember calling and texting you prior too, because I was thinking, hey, 10 years in the making, working in the ER, I was defined by it. But, I always did aesthetics by day, did ER by night. And I felt like, all right, there's a shift that needs to happen. Something I want more out of life, but I just wasn't ready or willing to take that leap of faith. I wasn't ready to bet on myself, and so at moments like that, that's when I noticed I had to reach out to people who shine bright and ask them to share their light with me so that I could,
That's right.
so that I could. And so you are definitely one of them. And I remember you said to me, well, what else are you going to do with your life? Just stay there. And I thought,
Ooh.
whoa, ooh.
That sounds like a
Ouch.
threat.
I was like, oh, she's
threatened
right.
you.
Yeah. And I was like, man, challenge accepted. You're right.
Good.
I mean, we're 8 months out now, and it's just the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Oh, and it's beautiful. I have visited your spa. I am a patient of your spa. And let's talk about that because
Yes.
it's exciting. And being a business owner, yes, it's fun and it's shiny and beautiful. But the backside of being a business owner, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And so growing a brand new business, daunting, terrifying, exhilarating.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the space you're in.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So I think, everyone would say that in the world of aesthetics, there's a med spa in every corner, which is true. However, there's always room for the best. So I knew going into this, I'm not here to just be mediocre or be complacent with anything in life. So I made sure that before I started, I invited few of the top plastic surgeons that I knew out to let them know
Smart.
that I'm coming to town
That's so
and that I'm
smart.
going to be an ally, and everyone was very kind and amicable. And I remember even someone saying like, aren't you scared that you're going to go out of business within a year? And I said, absolutely not. I said, I'll do what it takes. And I have a good feeling about this. I mean, it worked out well. And that person who said that to me reached out for an antidote for help, 3 months later. And I thought, hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm an ally in the city, so it's been wonderful, but it's been so much work. I've never, something has to give. So I feel like I'm really motivated, determined, and that's something my husband has had to learn to accept and really appreciate as well. My family, my friends, and you just kind of notice like when you put yourself first and like people think that you're being selfish, but what you're really doing is that you're trying to build forward.
You're not trying. You are building.
Oh, thank you.
You are moving forward.
Thank you.
Change your language.
Thank you.
But you are, though. Look at what you've done
Yeah.
by putting yourself first, by being selfish. And I love that word. Selfish is growth. You have to be selfish to grow, and you exemplify that. How can people contact you? How can people get the Gina special?
Okay, so the Gina special is phenomenal, guys. It is 20% off any product or service that we do in the office, and
And
it's
I
exclusively for Gina.
Love his products.
Yes, so we are exclusive to Zeo Skin Health, and that is the medical dispensed skincare that we follow and we live by. And to reach out to us, you can find us online at Regenix Skin Labs or on social media, Instagram at Regenix Skin Labs, or by a traditional phone at 424-888-0036.
Before we go, I know everyone in town is raving about the newest procedure treatment. What do we call it?
Soft Wave.
Soft Wave. It is phenomenal. And I know the newest housewife of
Yeah.
Beverly Hills,
Yes.
our dear friend
Yes.
Anne-Marie Wiley, was just there and she
Yeah.
documented it all on her page.
Yeah.
And she texted me after and she goes, I love it.
Ah,
So tell people about this because I didn't know about it and I think people should know.
So Soft Wave it's so innovative and the first of its type that is FDA approved and indicated to lift and tighten. So, from the brows, face, and submental of your neck, you could tighten and lift the skin. I mean, this is new level. This is new age.
No surgery?
No surgery, minimal to no
incision?
downtime. I mean, what other device could so innovatively stimulate collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid? That means, like deep lines and loss of volume, doing soft wave could replenish volume. I mean, I looked at a photo of myself maybe 2 years ago. I look younger now. I mean, and it's all from soft wave. Like, look at the volume here. And I was like, oh,
No incisions, no cutting.
yeah. No incision, no cutting.
Doesn't
it's all
hurt.
ultrasound. You know what? It's very comfortable, but I would say some people would recommend maybe having a little stress ball just, for the suspense.
Yeah. That's beautiful. No, I mean, anyone can do this.
Yeah, we have had such a success with it, and we're really proud to be a key opinion leader for Softwave and a center of excellence. So we do a lot, demonstrations and trainings there. We, host seminars and speaking engagements on behalf of Softwave. So,
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So I do encourage everyone to certainly follow Ted and everything and Regenix Med Spa as well, because yes, I know a lot of people think and they're scared and they want to do it and they hear about these cool new treatments and all these procedures. Reach out to them. I hope it comes across that Ted is as lovely and communicative and warm and wonderful as he is, because he is, and you'll talk to him and you'll realize how comfortable he makes you feel. And then one other point before we end is that I really appreciate how you deliver your care to your patients, because it's not just come in and sell them a product. I've seen you, and I know stories where people will come into your, and all your providers, they come into your spa and you're not immediately trying to shove some product or some thing in their face to sell. You'll tell them, no, why don't you try these things first?
Yeah.
And it just shows another level of advocacy for patient care, making sure people are feeling good, feeling comfortable, and allowing the consumer to feel more in control of their health and their wellness.
Yeah, it's, that whole philosophy, what patient over profit. I mean, it's just really, when you're focused on the results and the patient, your business is just going to do so well. When passion meets purpose, all bets are off. If that's why you're in it, right? So I stand by it. Yeah. And before we go, I just wanted to say, Gina, I have these little gifts for you and your daughters.
I love gifts.
So, for your, this one is for the older one, for Sophia. She gets a little eye cream. This is all right. And this is Valentina.
Oh,
perfect.
Ted.
Yes. Perfect little skincare set with these beautiful travel bags, because they're always on the go with mommy.
On the go. And is this safe for
Yes, and
tweens?
it's safe for tweens. Absolutely. There's nothing like retinol or anything too harmful, invasive, or harsh on the skin. So it's very delicate. I'm excited for them to try it out. And
I love that we're teaching them to focus on skin health now.
Yeah.
Versus when they're like, when I focused on skin health, I was mid-teens. By that time, your hormones are raging, your skin's a disaster. And then I'm like, what do we do? Versus having the mindset of earlier on, wash your face. Let's look at the type of products that we're using.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I also want to teach them that, start traveling TSA approved, get ready for it.
Very important.
Because we had to learn the rough way when they just,
threw away our bottles.
Yeah, sudden changes. But also, Lunar New Year is only a few days away. And so, Gina, for your two daughters, these two beautiful envelopes from Tiffany's, and Augustine and Elias.
Oh
these
my
two.
gosh.
Yes, the two reds.
So I love
Lunar New Year.
Thank you very much, Lunar New Year. And just for those of us who are not culturally familiar with the Lunar New Year, why do you give these envelopes, and to who do you give these envelopes?
So Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, or Vietnamese like that, it is, these lucky envelopes is lucky money, right? It's lucky money to be spent. It's lucky money to be spent, like wishing you prosperity and good fortune, right? So that's the whole theory behind it. And I grew up as a kid looking forward to, Lunar New Year every year, because it would be a year of celebration. Family would get together, be having, noodles every day for long life, fish for health and wellness, and then lucky money to be very, prosperous throughout the year.
How beautiful.
Yeah, it's a tradition my family held very closely. So I look forward to practicing this moving forward.
Well, thank you for including my family in this.
Of course.
Because
your daughters are amazing. Your
we
kids
love
are awesome.
This. Yeah, the more we learn about other cultures, the better for us, just because we need to be well-rounded. Children only get this, correct?
No, so actually it's children and single folks.
Oh,
yeah.
Hello, singles.
Hello, singles. You guys still get that lucky red envelope. What's up? So that's one of the reasons why it's a thing every year. So you always got to get fresh money, crisp bills, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's how you do it.
I appreciate this. And Ted, these are short kind of snippets, and I am going to have you back to continue this wellness and health and skincare conversation. There's so much we can do with this. And I
Yeah.
implore again, everyone, please do follow along, sign up, lean into it, stop being scared, go for it. You won't regret it. My friend, I love you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. Love you
Okay,
more.
bye.
Oh.